So let's get started. So I have a PDF document, and also I will share it in image format, but I'll also share it in PDF. And it is something really generic that I put together. Seriously, guys, it is really nothing fancy. But what happened is I was looking for direction. I was super overwhelmed, and I was like, all right, I have to come up with something to help narrow my focus, right? And so as a leader, I used to do what was called planning day, right? And it was all numbers based. And I would go through my numbers from the month before and I would analyze them to figure out where strategically I needed to focus my next month, right? So I would analyze like what numbers were up, what numbers were down, da 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 da. It was very analytical. And I actually do not have an analytical bone in my body. It's something I have to force. But it's a very important part of the business, right? And so I can definitely tap into it if I need to. And when I'm there, right? With our new system update, a year or two ago, I was having trouble doing this planning day with the reports that we had. So I've been kind of floundering around, and finally I was like, okay, I can't just keep floundering around. I need a focus, right? So I still haven't figured out the number part of it and being able to do what I used to do. But I was like, well, you know what I can do? I can focus on my schedule and my daily tasks, right? So like about a month or so ago, that's what I set out to do. So I started I was like, let me map out my week because I was feeling really overwhelmed. So this is what I came up with, right? And so I labeled the weeks, right? So I labeled the weeks based on what the focus of the weeks should be in our business, right? And that's just from everything that everybody says and just years of the being in the business, right? And so the first week I just labeled Power Week, right? And so you can label it whatever you want to. Okay. This is just me, right? So you can just kind of do whatever you want. And these forms that I got, like I said, are super generic. And I just literally got templates in Canva. So if you're versed in Canva, you can get templates and you can make them as beautiful or as generic as you want, right? And so I just put Power Week across the top. And like I said, I'm going to share mine. I put Power Week across the top. And those weeks, the first week of the month, your focus should be sales and recruiting, right? So that should be your focus for the first week of the month, period. I don't care what level you're at, your focus should be sales and recruiting. And so if you're sitting there and you're just like, well, I'm new, and so I don't really have any parties, I don't have anything, so I don't really know how to focus on sales or recruiting, right? Well, that's easy enough. So even if you don't have any parties, you focus on dating those parties. You focus on making connections to get future sales, right? You focus on maybe circling back to people that you talked to the previous month that were interested in products, but maybe they didn't place their order, right? So that's where you focus on getting new business. So you focus on finding new customers, right? And so it starts with one, right? It starts with one new contact, one new customer, one new anything, right? And if you're just like, well, I don't even know if I want to recruit, that's okay. That's absolutely okay if that's where you're at right now. Focus on getting in front of people, focus on the customers, right? Because through the customers, you might end up finding recruits accidentally. People might actually come to you and be like, so how can I do what you're doing? Because you look like you're having fun. Or how can I do what you're doing? Because my grandma sold Tupperware, right? And so sometimes through making those connections, trying to get the sales, you might accidentally stumble upon some recruits. And then you can kind of work through that process as well. But in Tupperware, we called the first week when you focused on dating parties, when you focused on dating parties sales, we called that front loading, right? Because if you go ahead and you have sales right here in the first week of the month, you're setting yourself up for success, right? You're starting that sort of like snowball effect that is going to lead to you having a better luck, more likely to hit your sales goals, to hit your stepping up goals, to hit all of the goals that you might be going towards, right? And so when you go ahead and you have those wins on early in the month, one, Pam has a promotion called Green by 15, right? And that's to have 500 in sales as consultants, have 500 in sales by the 15th of the month, right? So if nothing else, go for that, right? And maybe you're like, Ellen, I have not had 500 sales in an entire month, and you're telling me to do it by the 15th. Hey, listen, I hear you. I hear you. I'm with you. Okay. So don't worry. Okay. So don't stress about that. But if you sit there and you're like, all right, so Pam has this goal, 500 by the 15th. Well, what if I could get 100 by the 15th? That's pretty cool. I've never had 100 by the 15th. Maybe I could do that, right? And so don't be intimidated just because Pam has this promotion. That doesn't mean just because if you're sitting there and you're going, wow, I have never done that an entire month, so that promotion's not for me. No, break it down. Take it down lower. So I've for years when I've done trainings about goal setting and I do things like that, I have talked about lowering the bar, right? So I talk about lowering the bar. And so I was a high jumper in school, right? And in my middle school, we had metal bars. So when you missed that bar, it hurt. You felt it. And I remember when I was first learning how to high jump and I was trying really hard to get over this certain height, I was trying so hard and I kept hitting it and hitting it to the point, at one point, we had to stop and rebend the bar back because it was bent in a V from me hitting it so many times. My back was bruised. Like now, I think parents probably would have called the school, but my parents were just like, well, won't do that again, right? Because that was what it was, right? And so, but I remember my coach at that time was like, you know what, Ellen, let's just take it down. And so he kept taking it down and down and down and down until the bar literally met the mat. Because I could not get over this bar to save my life that day. I don't know what it was. I was just having a day. I couldn't get over it. And so he took it down to the point where it was level with the mat. And that's when I finally was able to get over the bar without knocking it off the stands. And he was like, fantastic. He cheered like I just cleared a 6-foot bar and he cheered his head off and he was just like, all right, let's end this day on a win. And I was like, thank you. I was like, please, right? But sometimes that's what we need to do. So if green by 15, getting $500 in by the 15th of the month is like, girl, you're nuts. There's no way I can do that. It's okay. Lower that bar. So challenge yourself to get 50 by the 15th, right? Are you going to get an award from Pam? No, probably not. However, you got your reward, right? Because you hit that goal that you set for yourself, right? And so get excited about that. And then, then be like, all right, can I do another 50 before the end of the month? And then if you have your first $100 month and you've never had a month that you had more than 20 bucks, that's a big freaking deal. That's a big deal. And you need to get excited about it, right? Now, the opposite. Some of you are like, $500, I can do $500 in a day, right? And that's okay. That's fantastic. That's wonderful, right? So challenge yourself. If green by 15, you're like, I do that, right? That's fantastic, right? So challenge yourself to double that. Challenge yourself to do the 500 in the first week. Challenge yourself to do 500 in the first 48 hours. I can tell who my partiers are because a lot of times as soon as the month switches over, they have sales go in, right? Because they're kind of got one leg in one month and one leg in the other, right? So I know that they've got parties going on because they are closing out their month with sales, and then when the month switches over, they have sales right away because they already have pre-orders because of the party, right? And so I can tell that based on how numbers come in. And so challenge yourself to do that. So the first week is sales and recruiting focus, right? So you take a schedule like this, right? And you block out your time of when it is that you're working, but also put your personal commitments in here, right? So then you can figure out where's the white space that you're gonna put in the times that you're going to make your phone calls, the times that you're going to reach out to people, right? So this isn't colorful and pretty, right? I mean, sometimes they make it colorful and pretty when I have time, but I've been busy, okay? So so I have on here like I'll show you towards the end of the month, like because that one's kind of bare, right? Because here are like my weekly commitments, right? This is when I have across there. This is when I get James off the bus every day, right? These are James's track practices in our rally down here. These are the calls with Pam. I have a call there, and then my call there, and then our director calls down here, and then I have my chiropractor appointment, right? So that's like stuff that happens like every single week, except for the chiropractor appointment, right? Every single week, these things happen every single week. So I already have that in there, but I don't have my work times in there. So on these other times, I have slated in when I'm going to go live, right? I have my times when I'm going to go live, and then I have times when I'm going to like pack orders and do things like that, or place orders or things like that. So if you're doing live parties, you can have your party times are in here. If you do Facebook parties, you have you schedule in your, this is when I'm going to be posting in my parties. This is when I'm going to like sit down and map out my parties. However it is that you do it, what's your process, right? You put it in here. And so it just kind of helps you map out your time, because when I'm scheduled, I feel much more in control. When I'm not scheduled, the week will go by and I was like, I didn't touch my business this week. It's like, oh, that's a quick way to be out of business, right? So week 2 is your building week, right? So again, it's still a sales and recruiting focus, right? So you're building on what you started in week 1. So you're still focusing on sales and recruiting. Hey, newsflash, every week is focused on sales and recruiting. Just so you know, every week you're doing activities around sales and recruiting. All right. But this is a build week. So you're still like recontacting the people from the week before. You're trying to see who you can get in front of. You're trying to date more parties. You're trying to do things like that. Right. So week 3 is a growth week, right? So this is where you check in on your goals. Like, where are you at? What did you set out for your goals this month? Right. And you don't adjust your goals, you adjust your activity. So if you are looking at it and you're like, I am nowhere near my goals that I set out for this month. I set out, and sometimes if it's overwhelming to you to set number goals, because I go back and forth. Sometimes I set my goals are dollar amounts, right? My goal is to sell $2,000 this month, right? And so sometimes my goals are number goals. And then sometimes when that's not working for me, either one, I'm bored with it because I'm just like, I don't know, I'm not hitting these goals and it's really annoying me, and so I'm just getting kind of bored with not hitting these goals and I'm getting annoyed, right? So sometimes it's that, and sometimes I'm just literally bored, like I just want to change things up, right? So you can also set activity goals, right? What are your activity goals? And so an activity goal is I'm going to date and hold 5 parties this month, right? Don't worry about the goal, like the sales goal. Don't worry about the sales and the results from those parties. I want to date and I want to hold 5 parties this month, right? And so sometimes it's activity goals. And sometimes, if that is too much for you, take it down even further. I want to contact 5 people this week. I want to personally reach out to 5 people this week and talk Tupperware and talk to them about Tupperware and either ask them to date a party or join my team, right? Doesn't matter the outcome. Who cares about that, right? Doesn't matter. Let go of the outcome and enjoy the process. Enjoy these conversations. Get comfortable talking about it, right? Those are important, just as important goals as the numbers, right? Because if you focus on those activity goals, the numbers eventually will end up happening if you're being honest with yourself about those activity goals. All right. So in week 3, you're checking in to see where you're at with those goals. If you need to date more parties, if you need more recruits, where are you at? Is one of your goals to step up this month? Is one of your goals to get paid as, a manager this month, if you're already a manager. And then week 4 is about promoting and about hitting your goals. That's where you really dial in. You're like, how close am I to a personal volume bonus? Personal volume bonuses start at $1,500 in personal sales. How close are you to that? Because that's an extra $50, right? I'd take an extra $50. That's pizza money, man. That's takeout. That's that's fun money, right? Because I already did the work. That's extra money. So I love it. I love a personal volume bonus, right? And it starts at $1,500, right? And it goes up from there, right? If you have 4,000 in sales, you get 400 extra dollars. Like, what? That is not chump change. That is a car payment. Like, hello. That is exciting. That's something to get excited about, right? Or, are you reaching to step up, right? And so you're like, how close am I to stepping up? Can we do this? And reach out to your upline and make a plan, even if you're disappointed. It's funny. I was talking to my doctor. I was working with my doctor in the last like 6 months. I was working with him on some health stuff. And I said to him, I was like, I almost canceled. This is like back in December. I was like, I almost canceled this appointment. He's like, why? And I was like, because I figured you'd be disappointed in me. And he was like, do not cancel an appointment because you think I'm going to be disappointed in you. That's why you need to come. He's like, because we can talk and we can work it out. And I was like, Oh. It's the same thing with us, guys. When you like reach out to your upline and talk to them, they're not going to be disappointed in you. They're going to be probably proud of you for reaching out to them, being like, "Listen, I'm not hitting my goals this month, and I'm kind of frustrated. I'm not sure what to do." You know, and meet with them, talk to them, make a plan. And the plan might be to lower the bar, guys. Don't be afraid. That's literally what we're here for, because our goal is for you to succeed, whatever that looks like. I always tell people your goals are my goals, but my goals aren't your goals. Your goals are my goals, but my goals aren't your goals, right? you know my goals are my goals, but your goals are my goals. If your goal is to make $100, I want you to make that $100, whatever that's for. And so yeah, so that is, and like I said, this is just like a blank form, but I love nothing more than a blank calendar that I can mess with and like make my perfect week and make my perfect outline. And does it always work out this way? No, it doesn't. I mean, my to-do lists on my planner, do I always do all that stuff? No, I don't. I wish I did. No, I don't. And then when I don't get to something, I just cross it out. I put a line through it that's like, I didn't do that. And that just tells me I need to carry it over to the next day, or just need to scratch it. So, all right. So I hope that that helps, and maybe just give you some things to chew on. Maybe that you can take it in another direction that maybe works for your brain. Or if you have some questions around it, always reach out. Or maybe that's something that you could partner with your upline about and be like, how can I make this work? How can I like come up with a plan? Because if you don't plan to work, you plan to fail. There's no two ways about it, because we always say that this business is very flexible. But if you do not like plan to work your business, you will flex your way right out of business. Trust. I almost did it in college with a flex class. I missed my final. And I realized I was driving home and I was like, I'm done. And then I was like, ooh. I forgot to take my final in my flex class, right? So don't be like me. You can be flexible, but don't flex yourself out of business, right?